2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's go.
Welcome, and you thought maybe we went away because the market was down. Oh no, we took a couple days off, which is healthy. And we're back with a vengeance because, like I said, we're not going away. This is AZcrypto with MrFOMO. We have a very special weekend episode. Yeah, we didn't do a Fast Flip Friday. That would have been very, very irresponsible. That's not what our channel is about. But we've got some interesting topics coming up all through May and the summer, even if BTC doesn't recover and the market still goes down. We got some great content for you. And today we're going to talk about, if you had 10K, where would you put the money in and how would you invest? We're going to give you two different perspectives. We're going to give you the long view with me because I'm feeling like we don't really see a true recovery till 2024, but I'm feeling better and better about that, and I'll explain why. And then MrFOMO is going to give you a shorter term in case we do get a bump, because you never know. I mean, crypto is just becoming more and more part of society, even if the markets are down all over the world. So you just never know when BTC will just explode. It could happen before the next halving. So we're going to give you two different scenarios so you can kind of plan ahead, even if the market is down. Because I know some of you haven't invested that much. So guess what? You're in great shape because you're getting in on the ground floor. So MrFOMO, how are you feeling about this? I think we're going to help a lot of people out who maybe have just kind of put their toe in the water but aren't ready to go in. But as they do the research and they watch shows like us, they realize, hey, this time is to get in. Wait till 2024. These prices are going to be long, long gone.
Yeah, and I think that this is a good lesson for any investor, really, because your portfolio should remain fluid for the most part. I think that we've probably established that there's a few coins, USDC, Bitcoin, maybe Luna, that are solid enough to be long-term investments and constant holds and hodls. But the rest of your portfolio, especially in crypto with the volatility, should remain fluid so that you can take advantage of the volatility. You don't want to be married to these alts, and we were talking before the show that we think that Bitcoin may range between 36 and 43, somewhere around there for a while, and probably see the lower end of that range throughout the summer. And so you don't want to be involved in a project forever in this kind of a market, because every time it goes back down, the alts are going to bleed against Bitcoin, and you're going to see your portfolio valuation fall. So you always want to be on top of a volatile market. So I think this is a good lesson, not only in building your portfolio, but also in the idea that you can remain fluid and you don't have to stay married to everything that you bought the way maybe your grandpa or your dad or your mom invests in the stock market.
Well, let me share mine really quickly here. And this is in case you do have 10K. We just picked that number randomly. You might have way more, you might have way less. Everyone's in this situation. And maybe you've already started investing, but you haven't quite gone to the 10K level, or maybe you're above 10K. So take that for what it's worth. But I'm going to put 30% in USDC. Now, remember, if you want to click on our Voyager link, you can get 9%. And obviously, they did change a little bit because lending is down. If you're putting in over $1 million, you won't quite get the 9% anymore. But I'm going to assume most of you are not going to be putting in the million. So the 9% is still a certain range. You're going to get it. It did go to 6.5 for the really, really high whales. But even so, having money in stablecoin is very valuable because you can take advantage of volatility, like you said, and you can filter in to the other projects that I'm going to mention. So I'm going to have a big chunk sitting on the side as USDC. If you have a Voyager account, you earn that 9% rewards every month. That's a beautiful thing. My biggest holding is going to be Luna. We're the unofficial Luna channel. I think 1,000 is a conservative for 24-25, but I think, I'm just going to say, I think 4,000 very doable too. Even some people are saying 8 to 10, but I'm going to stick with 1,000 for now. We were well below 100 in the 80 range right now. Great pickup. I think there's no way, even if the darkest days happen, we're ever getting below the mid 50s, because remember, there's $1 billion locked up at 51. So even if you buy at 80, you got a DCA down in the 70s and 60s. That's just worst case. So right now you're getting a pretty good price. Even when it does hit 70s, if you guys have noticed that it just bumps right back up. So 70s is kind of like where I feel like the unofficial bottom is. 60s would be like absolute worst case. And I thought about going heavier on Luna here, but what I honestly would do is I would use a lot of my USDC that I have left to put into BTC and Luna. VGX, and you might say, well, it's such a loser the last 4 months, but a lot of coins are. The thing is, the 6% is enough money to get you into the VLP. VLP 2.0 now, we almost have confirmations coming out this summer. I still think VGX will get to 50. It's not going to be pretty. There's going to be a lot of rocky days, but I still think by 2025, I'd be really surprised if we don't get at least to 25, but I'm still thinking 50 is doable. If you want to be a really long-term investor and you just want to let it rip for until the halving after that 2028, I think you could see 100. So I want to get in the VLP. That's why my 6%. Now, eGold, I like a lot. They're just kind of pushing the envelope in terms of their potential. I think they have a lot, like we talked about when they review. They have a lot of great relationships, especially in Florida, in the Miami area. I think eGold is going to be a force to reckon with in the next decade. So I'm going to get my hands on a little bit of eGold here, just 4%. But again, let's say my investment, I decided to put more than 10K in, eGold would be something now I've got a little bit of foothold in the hundreds. I could go in. My prediction for eGold in the next bull run is going to be between $1,000 and $1,500, and I think that's conservative too. So I'm not giving you crazy numbers like 10K. That's probably not realistic, but I like that a lot. I think if you did this today, sometime in 2025, you'd be dancing in your room, because I think that 10K would turn into a lot more than 10K. Let's just say that. So, Mr. FOMO, what do you think? Really quickly, what's your reaction?
I like it a lot. To me, this is basically 50% stability. USDC, Bitcoin, especially at this level for Bitcoin. So I see a lot of really strong. I see a lot of strength in this one. And then you got Luna right now in the 70s. If you're picking up that much Luna, $4,000 worth of Luna, and it flips over 100 again. Like you said, you're dancing in the streets. And eGold is one that I like. It's a lower cap than the sort of mid cap that I put in, but it was one of the ones that I was considering for mine very strongly, because I like where it is as a market cap. I like all the things that you mentioned that they have going for them. VGX, the same thing. I love the idea of getting in on the VLP and getting the reward boosts. I could honestly care less about the price right now, as long as I'm getting a boost on my other coins.
And you're getting an amazing price. If you have not gone into VGX, let me say something. Really research it. We did a big episode on VGX, and there's been a lot of crazy things that have happened with the market. We know that, but at $1.12, $1.15, guys, that's a great price.
With an eye, and when we look at mine, you'll see that I have that same thing, with an eye towards accumulation as I profit in other areas. So
let's go ahead and share yours, because yours is a little bit different, and yours is a little more immediate.
So here we're going to take a look at it. I've got 10% in USDC, and right now that's not so much for stability, that's for liquidity. If and this is sort of the pie chart you've got here, but I break it down in an Excel sheet, and I'll look at that real quick. You've got kind of my thoughts here on it. USDC, 15% of my portfolio is going to go into that just for stability, and then also to provide liquidity. Remember, I said I want to be fluid with my portfolio, especially in the short term. If I get a quick pump out of something, I want to be able to move into those profits into USDC or Bitcoin if it's down, or one of the other alts if it's down. But I don't necessarily want to be fully deployed because I want to be able to DCA in case, as we get closer to Thursday, we have another Fed meeting, we see a little bit more volatility to the downside, then I'd like to be able to use some of that liquidity to DCA. But you see Bitcoin there again, like I said with your portfolio, you've got about 30% strength and stability there. That's digital gold. I consider it stability at these levels. And I was looking at this last night at around 37. We're back up to 38 right now. Terra Luna, 20%, just because I think it's the best altcoin on the market, the best tokenomics, the best. I mean, they're buying Bitcoin, they're buying all these other altcoins to back up their stable coin. I think that they have probably the best idea of how to run an altcoin. So I'm going to want that in my portfolio. And plus, from these levels, it's going to run back up to 100, at least in the short term. Probably, I mean, not in the next few months, but before the end of the year, you'll probably see Luna at 100 again, without a doubt. Polkadot, I like way down here because it's going to have room to run, and I'm also going to get a huge APR with Polkadot, and so I like getting those rewards while I'm also waiting for it to take back off. We talked about Polkadot on the channel. I love the way that it's built. I love the parachains and the parathreads and all the things that they have going with them and the interoperability of that project. And it's got a huge market cap, so I don't want to dedicate that much of my portfolio to it, because in the short term, I want to catch something that's going to run a little bit. And so that's why I included these last three, well, the last two, and then Voyager. So you've got Algorand, which is a low cap, 3.8 billion, not necessarily a real low cap, but it's a low cap, 15% in there. And I think this one will rebound back to $1 the quickest, but you could also insert a name like Cardano in here, and that would rebound to $1 pretty quickly if the market got some momentum again. So, but for me personally, I like the market cap of Algorand here, and I like the strength in this project. I mean, we did a deep dive on this, and I fell in love with it and added it as part of my portfolio a couple of weeks ago, and so I DCA'd again last night when it got down. But this is a great project, and I think it'll rebound pretty quickly, and you can get almost 50% from that price, 40% if it gets back to $1. Then I included audio. I think that the world doesn't realize, and the market doesn't realize, how important music NFTs are going to be to that industry. I see it as sort of the anti-digital revolution to what happened with Napster so long ago, 25 years ago, when they took the ability to make money from the artists and sort of did that file share thing. I think this will be what gives artists the ability to take that earning power back and earn from the music, not just from touring the way that they do now. So I think that music NFTs are going to be great. This one is also held up pretty well for the 900 million market cap that it has, versus Bitcoin and all these other alts that are bleeding pretty strongly. This one is still in the 80s. So I like that one a lot, not only because it's a low cap gem, not only because of the music NFTs, but there seems to be a lot of investors out there that still believe in this project. And then finally, you mentioned Voyager token. And to me, this is a no-brainer. You get the APR boosts. And at this level, if I can dedicate $1,000 to it and it gets back to $2, I've made quite a bit of money. I'm also earning 7.5% on that. This seems like a no-brainer to me, especially if you bought anything else on Voyager. This is the way to go. Now, I've listed some other coins there that I was running through last night that I thought maybe had some potential, but these are, you've got some really sketchy projects down here if the market is going to keep being volatile to the downside. So I would be careful. You had ApeCoin that pumped up to that ongoing, or to that land sale yesterday, and now it's died all the way back to 16. So I hope a bunch of you made money off of that, but don't buy into that necessarily now.
Yeah, I think it's too late.
Ones maybe to keep an eye on that have kept some strength, or they've got potential, or they're in gaming, or like Sushi Swap is a DEX, and when people get back into the market, they're going to need DEXs. So
The one that almost put into mine, and I would probably think would be a good one to add to yours really quickly, would be Avalanche, because it went all the way down to 55 and it jumped all the way back to 60. And this is something that was at 100, 46 not too long ago. And I think
you could say things like Solana. The also watching ones are really small caps, but you could say things like Solana, Avalanche. I mentioned.
Yeah, I like Avalanche a lot on the next run. I don't know. Like I said, with only 10K, had to make some tough decisions, and I went pretty conservative with mine, trying to alleviate the risk because it's more of a long term, and it's going to assume that we don't see a lot of great healthy action until
And
2024,
really,
which is worst case.
the reason that I didn't include AVAX is because you've got something like Polkadot that's earning you 12%.
Yeah,
I just kind of stick your money in there. This was in the short term, I still had to be risk off. You know what I mean? There's still a lot of negative news out there. All the markets are getting crushed right now. We still have an ongoing war in Europe that's the worst one since World War II. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market. So this to me, I was trying to go as risk off as I could while also trying to make as much as I could in the short term. And so
I like the Audius a lot. I do. I like your Audius pick. The only, like I said, I would maybe consider Avalanche, but I understand why you didn't do it. And then I probably would put a little more into Luna, because if BTC, let's say we had a huge catalyst event where a bunch of countries put BTC on the ledger, Luna would just skyrocket. And so I think you'd probably want maybe a little more than 20%. But otherwise, I like this a lot. I think it's pretty good. I think it's a good chart. And so you guys take a look at this, do your own research, and you kind of decide if you do have the money right now and you want to get in. And here's the thing, yeah, it's risky to get in when things are down technically, but mathematically and statistically, it's way better to buy now than 2024. So it's like, yes, you are putting some money in a way that you're probably not going to see for a while if you want to make some gains. Realistically, I mean, again, we could have some healthy action. It's just not looking like it right now. Things can change. It's crypto.
But this is always something that our viewers should remember, is that we are all very early in this.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're experiencing some downside volatility in your portfolio, don't feel bad.
There's only been 3 BTC habits.
Right now, we've all been through it. And let's look at this chart that I made here. You've got countries adopting Bitcoin versus countries that haven't adopted Bitcoin yet. This is 193 countries that haven't touched it yet. And you have 2 that are into it so far. And so
there's a long way to go. And just to show where we've come, a few years ago, this is just a few years ago, someone posted an old episode of a Family Guy clip where Lois and Peter are talking, and Lois is telling him that they have to start saving money. They got to be responsible for their finances. And he says the word Bitcoin. Peter, let's get serious. And underneath it says if they would have put $1,000 in Bitcoin, I would think it was 3 years ago, it would be 100K now. So the episode is 3 or 4 years ago. So that just shows you how far we've come. It may have been longer than that, actually. But it's still funny.
Actually, there's a lot of shows that have had to do that. I saw a clip of it's a show that's canceled now, but he did sort of a comedy news show on Netflix, and his name is slipping me. But he had this whole bit on cryptocurrency and about how his buddy told him to get into it and change his life, and he basically just made it into this huge joke. And that was before the last bull run, and obviously he's probably eating his hat right now. But this chart that I shared with you, this is just a quick look at where we are in the adoption phase. And if you think about it, really, there's less than 10% of the world that is actually involved in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. And so when we're looking at this chart, we're not even to the chasm yet. We're still in the innovators to visionaries and the tech enthusiasts end of this. When we get to that pragmatists and conservatives, and we pick up the skeptics at the end, your portfolio is going to look awesome. So right now it's hard to deal with because the markets are taking a dive, but that's everywhere. But when you look at this and you look at that chart before of all the countries that have yet to really regulate and bring Bitcoin on as legal tender, we've got a long way to go in this.
Yeah, I think we've got some bright days ahead. It's just going to be a rocky a rocky time until then. But guys, stay with us. We've got some great shows coming up, and don't get too negative because eventually things will turn. That's the reality is eventually we will see 100K BTC, no doubt. I think eventually we definitely will see 1 million in our lifetime. So don't worry if you're down, things will come back up. For Mr. FOMO, this is AZ Crypto. Have a good rest of your Sunday. We will see you next week.
See ya.